Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. So the trade deadline is quickly approaching October 31st, and last week we went over a star pass rusher on the defensive side of the ball that I was interested in the Ravens going after in Danielle Hunter, and that still may make sense. I still am all aboard that train. But today I wanted to dive in on the offensive side of the ball. If we were to decide to go that route, who might make sense? And I think the position is running back. I think that we're not getting as much production out of Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, and we haven't seen Keaton Mitchell yet, so who knows? Maybe he does step in and have a premier role and lifts this offense. But as of now, our running backs are pretty average, honestly, and our run blocking is not as incredible as it was once upon a time. So we're just seeing an average run game. Our run game, besides Lamar adding to that run game, is not performing at a high level. So I'm looking at a couple running backs that we could go target that makes sense. Now, everybody has the dream scenario of Saquon Barkley. I've seen that floating around a lot, and that would obviously be a huge investment. We'd have to give up a lot. He'd have to then sign a big contract. He's at very high injury risk, and on top of that, the Giants said today that they are not interested in trading Saquon Barkley. So I would say that's unlikely, as fun as it is to think about. I would love to see Saquon Barkley in this Baltimore Ravens offense. I just think that that's unlikely. But another name that I saw floating around that I think makes a lot more sense is Javonte Williams from the Broncos. Now, Javonte Williams is not a free agent next year. He's still under contract and only has a $2.8 million cap hit next year. So he's under contract. We get him for the rest of this season and next season for $3 million, essentially. And you won't have to give up a ton of draft capital to go get Javonte. The Broncos are struggling really bad, and Javonte is doing well for what that offense is putting up. He's doing well, and comparative to the total offensive numbers, Javonte's having a solid season. It's just that offense is not moving the ball. But he's only 23 years old, and I think he has a lot left in the tank, and he runs hard. I would love to see a Javonte Williams in this offense. Hit the hole and go. Explosive runner, physical runner, hard to bring down, cheap cap hit, and I don't think you have to give up a ton. Maybe a third, maybe. Could probably get away with a fourth. I mean, Javonte's just not going to carry. For one, running backs don't have a lot of value as is, and he's not up there at that Saquon Barkley or even a Josh Jacobs level. Javonte's coming off a knee injury last year that he was out for the season pretty early on. He came back this year. He looks solid. The Broncos seem like they're going to be sellers, like they need to clean house a little bit. I just don't think it would take a first or second for sure. I mean, don't give up that. I'm just saying a third, fourth round pick for Javonte Williams, who has a low cap hit and you're guaranteed next season too. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, another option would be Derrick Henry. I don't think the Titans would make that trade with the Ravens just because, for one, we just played them. They probably still have a little bad taste in their mouth. And for another, the last few years, we just haven't liked each other. I don't think that they're going to want to help out another AFC powerhouse in their eyes. I mean, giving Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens would lift our team tremendously. So I don't think there's a high chance that this happened, but he did restructure his contract. So over the next few years, he has a lower cap hit. So it's not like you have to give up a ton of money for Derrick Henry because he's obviously going to be over 30. So I don't know if this is a long-term play by any means. It probably would be this year, maybe next year as well. if we gave up for Derrick Henry. Now I'm just naming a guy that seems to be available and wouldn't break the bank moving forward. And also, you probably wouldn't have to give up a ton just because of his age. But I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think the Titans are going to trade anybody to the Ravens. That's just my opinion. Obviously, we've traded with other AFC powerhouses before. We sent Orlando Brown to the Chiefs. We've made some moves like that. But usually, you don't help out a team in your conference that's competing for the playoffs or has a chance to contend. You don't help them out. So I don't think the Titans would make that trade with the Ravens, but Derrick Henry would also be fun to watch in this offense and would create a lot of versatility and would definitely boost our run game. Josh Jacobs is the other option that I think is realistic in a sense. He is a free agent next year, so you obviously have to weigh that and decide whether you want to invest $10+ million into him for a couple years because that's what it's going to take. So that is a hurdle. That's why I think Javonte Williams is clear-cut the best option if we want to trade for a running back, a starting running back at least. I think Javonte Williams stands out above the rest, but Josh Jacobs would perform really well in our offense. I think that he brings a similar versatile style where he can run hard, still has that quickness, and we're missing a little bit of the whole package right now. You know, Gus Edwards does run downhill. I don't want to say like we don't have a power back. Like Gus Edwards does run downhill. I still like what we're getting from Gus, but he doesn't bring that X factor to the table. He's downhill, but then he doesn't have the same quickness. You know, Derrick Henry runs downhill, but is still light on his feet and can get outside and make a lot of plays happen. I'm not seeing as much from that from Gus. Justice Hill looks like that turf toe still bothering him a little bit. He's definitely explosive. He's the most explosive back we have right now outside of probably Keaton Mitchell, but we haven't seen Keaton Mitchell play. I feel like the running back room can use a boost. We're clearly missing J.K. Dobbins, you know, and J.K. Dobbins is obviously a future decision too. You know, he's going to be a free agent. He seems like he's working to come back at some point, but what J.K. are you getting down the road? Do we even take a chance to bring him back? I feel like if any team does, we would give him a chance to come back on a really cheap deal, kind of like a little 1-year prove-it deal. But you can't bank on J.K. Dobbins being the J.K. Dobbins he was supposed to be this year. It hasn't ever happened for a length of time. So, you know, I think you might need to invest in another option. Now, obviously, you could always wait to the draft next year, but I'm looking at our offense right now, and I would love the running game to get a boost. And our offense is playing better, and I expect them to continue to get better, but I'm looking at where we can improve, and I think the running back room is somewhere that we can go get a guy and boost this instantly. And Javonte Williams is my pick. It makes the most sense. I don't think we have to give up a lot. We get him next year as well for a really low cap hit. But let me know who you guys would want to trade. I just talked offense in this video. You know, I made a pass rushing trade video last week. So I'm focusing on the offensive side of the ball, but let me know whoever you want, defense or offense. Who would you go get? We only have about a week and a half before the trade deadline here, so I'm expecting some fireworks somewhere in the NFL. I'm not guaranteeing that the Ravens make a trade, but Eric DeCosta usually is pretty active at the trade deadline year in and year out. So I am expecting a move, and it's an exciting time to add a talented player to what I think is already a pretty elite roster. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.